Mobile Task Forces. They are the elite special forces units of the SCP Foundation. Whenever a particularly dangerous anomaly rears its ugly head, you can guarantee that these members of personnel with highly specialized skill sets will be sent in to take care of business. A lot of the time, MTFs are relocated between different Foundation facilities, or sent from location to location, hence the mobile part of the name. They vary in size and function too, with some teams being small covert investigators and intelligence gatherers. Meanwhile, others might be huge battalions consisting of hundreds of troops, vehicles, and enough heavy-duty firepower to put the Terminator to shame. Whether it's containing a newly emerged SCP, or helping the Foundation to get a flighty anomaly back into its cage and keeping it there, the MTFs are who you're going to call when it all hits the fan. They are the best of the SCP Foundation's best, and few represent that better than MTF Tau-5. If you're at all familiar with the SCP Foundation, then there's a good chance you've heard of the iconic Mobile Task Force Tau-5, also known by their collective codename Samsara. Take everything you know about an average task force, give them leagues better equipment and training, and put them on anomalous super steroids, and you're still likely to get an MTF who can only dream of getting on Samsara's level. In our series on the infamous Site-13, you've only seen these badasses take on horrors beyond description and not even blink, even rescuing other mobile task forces from the jaws of death on many occasions. Why are they given such prestige, even in a crowded field of elite Foundation operatives? It's because the 4 members of the Samsara team are unlike any other MTFs on a fundamental level, given that each one of them was created from the flesh of a dead god. Sounds cool enough on its own, right? Well, not only are Tau-5 specially created from a divine deity, but each of them has also had their bodies enhanced with cutting-edge cybernetics. These immortal cyborgs can be upgraded at any time, as and when the need arises, using the latest of the Foundation's experimental weaponry to combat and contain all kinds of anomalous threats, from the thaumaturgic and psionic to even powerful reality-warping entities that a normal MTF couldn't dream of handling. Together, Samsara consists of 2 male operatives, named Arantu and Munru, and 2 females, Nanku and Onru. And that's all you need to know before we delve into the insanity that comes next. Buckle up and put on your scramble goggles. It's time for Avatara. Long ago, there was a deity known as the Lord of Endowments, a god who once assumed the persona of Prometheus. No, not the terrible Ridley Scott movie. Prometheus was a figure from ancient Greek mythology who stole the gift of knowledge from the gods of Mount Olympus and gifted it to the people of Earth, often represented as metaphorical fire. As punishment for his transgression, Prometheus was chained to the side of a mountain, where every day he would have his liver pecked out by birds, only for it to grow back overnight so the birds could feed on him again the next day. So, our Lord of Endowment, stop giggling you at the back, gave himself a body of flesh so that he might walk upon the earth as a giant humanoid. His goal was to, like Prometheus, provide mankind with knowledge and power, to grant them technology and then redefine what it meant to be human. The Lord amassed followers as a result and began to conquer new territories to expand his power. However, something changed, and the Lord gradually began to die. Whether it was the result of him becoming flesh and therefore mortal, a betrayal by his armies of followers, or punishment from the other gods for his exploits, the Lord of Endowment decided to split his mortal form into 3 parts in order to survive. These were his mind, body, and spirit, and they were hidden across the earth, with his body being buried deep within the Tabernes Desert in Spain, where his mind also slept with his body. Jump forward several thousand years and a group known as Prometheus Labs discovered the dormant flesh body of the Lord of Endowment. Prometheus Labs was once a group of interest to the SCP Foundation, known for researching anomalous objects with the goal of using them to develop new technological breakthroughs. Unearthing the Lord's body, the Prometheus scientists discovered that the body's liver contained cells that could endlessly regenerate. Eventually, harvesting and researching these cells resulted in a brand new research project. The goal? To create a group of immortal warriors. Prometheus Labs took 4 volunteers and uploaded their consciousnesses to a computer. hoping to then download them into new bodies that were cloned from the regenerating cells. The thought was, if one of these cloned bodies was destroyed or somehow became so badly damaged that it couldn't be used, then this process could be used to upload the same mind to a fresh body, as simple as booting up a new computer with an old hard drive. The project did produce some results, seeing the creation of some mass-produced cyborg warriors later known as SCP-1637. However, the research was cut short when a surviving group of the Lord of Endowments followers stormed Prometheus Labs. The followers raided the entire facility, shooting the newly cloned bodies that were intended to be the hosts for the 4 consciousnesses that had been saved to the computer. But even those were destroyed, along with all the backup drives that contained copies of the 4 minds. The Lord's followers destroyed the Prometheus facility, but the machine used to create the clones miraculously survived. It began gradually creating 4 new bodies, despite sustaining heavy damage. The problem was, the minds and bodies of the 4 volunteers were all gone. Their lives, thoughts, emotions, imagination, everything. Their humanity had been stored on a hard drive that the followers had destroyed. But still, the machine did what machines do. It cloned 4 new bodies, but there was nothing to inhabit them. Nothing more than a simple template, 2 genders, and 4 names. Years go by, and Prometheus Labs suffered another major accident which eventually led to the organization disbanding. However, some of the former scientists were scooped up by the SCP Foundation, including one doctor who had survived the attack at the cloning facility. He took a group of the Foundation's agents to the location of that old project, where they found 4 almost featureless fleshy shells, empty, but ready to be transformed into an asset the likes of which the Foundation had never possessed before. The Prometheus Labs project that had almost been for nothing lived on. Samsara. More time passes, until the members of MTF Tau-5, also known as Samsara, were eventually sent in to deal with a new anomaly that had started to spread. It originated from within a seemingly ordinary farmhouse. However, when anything organic entered, it would rapidly become cancerous. In much the same vein, anything mechanical brought into the house would break down. This meant that sending in any human personnel or even unmanned drones were options that were off the table for the Foundation. So instead, they called in Samsara. After all, if you need to send someone into a house that causes certain death, why not 4 functionally immortal cyborgs? The members of MTF Tau-5 were constructed from the same basic mind template, meaning that all 4 of them lacked any real humanity. They react to anomalies very casually in terms of their emotions, but respond extremely seriously in terms of executing a task or containing an SCP. Granted, this makes them a formidable fighting force, but even though they try to hide it behind acting human, Tau-5 have very little understanding of emotions. As they entered the house, they heard the sound of religious chanting and began to follow it back to its source. In the bedroom, Samsara discovered a figure hidden behind a tumor so big that it appeared to just be one huge mass of twisted flesh.
"Provide him your flesh,"
the creature chanted.
"Sate its thirst. Give it your flesh that he may make you gods."
Tau-5 was given the order to terminate the creature that seemed to be the source of the anomaly, but their shots only ricocheted off the fleshy mass. The entity could not be killed by anything not made from flesh. Arantu ordered Nanku to hand him her pistol, and didn't hesitate to shoot her multiple times in the neck. He started hacking away at the dead Nanku's neck with a combat knife, while Onru and Munru helped Arantu finish decapitating her. Taking a grenade from Nanku's belt, he stuffed it into the mouth of his teammate's severed head, pulled the pin, and threw it deep into the cancerous mass. Diving out of harm's way in the last second, the remaining members of Samsara took cover as the grenade detonated, killing the anomaly and showering the room with gooey bits of muscles, intestines, brain tissue, and bone marrow. Hope you weren't eating while watching this one, folks. They had no reservations about killing one of their own, but Tau-5 had neutralized the anomaly, and its effects had stopped spreading outside the farmhouse. Samsara re-entered the bedroom, only for one of them, Munru, to discover something among the blood, guts, and viscera that remained. Underneath piles of flesh, stained with meat, was a small leather-bound book. Munru took it with him, hiding it away. This tome was a grimoire, a type of ancient textbook of magic. Typically, a grimoire includes instructions on how to create magical objects, talismans, amulets, and the like, or a number of spells and magic charms. But some grimoires also instruct a reader on how to summon or invoke supernatural entities, calling forth beings from the great beyond, like angels, spirits, demons, and deities. And this particular book described how to summon the essence of a certain Promethean plunderer, the Lord of Endowment himself. Somehow, the cancerous tumor-spreading entity from the farmhouse that affected both flesh and technology seemed to have been created by this book. So why would one of the MTF Tau-5 take the grimoire? Surely as a member of Samsara, Munru would normally react to anomalies with the same emotionless pragmatism he and his teammates shared, and would never think to stash this spellbook on his person. Unless, of course, Munru was being manipulated by some force without realizing it. The mind of the Lord, knowing that this book was an important tool for his resurrection, had managed to influence Munru into keeping the grimoire. The members of Samsara returned to headquarters, where they all began looking over the book over the next 2 weeks. Nanku's head was reformed and meticulously put back together by the Foundation, left with only the scars from all the stitching around her face, head, and neck. Luckily for Arantu, the Tau-5s lacked the emotional capacity to hold grudges. After all, think about it. How would you feel if your coworker decided to behead you and use your severed head as a bomb? Sounds like quite the headache. God, I make terrible jokes. As the Tau-5 team studied the book, they found themselves enjoying it, learning about a place where they could learn more about acting like people, a place they then hoped to visit, perhaps because it was the place they'd first started. If you were paying attention earlier in this video, you'll remember we told you the MTF Tau-5 members were created from the flesh of a dead god, and this particular dead god buried his body in the Tabernas Desert in Spain. It was none other than the Lord of Endowment that had been used to create the 4 immortal cyborgs of MTF Tau-5. The Samsara team had come from him, and now he was trying to tempt them back. Now go check out SCP Elite Mobile Task Force Explained and SCP-1730 What Happened to Site-13, the full story compilation, for more of Samsara and the other teams they work with.